What is up, guys? It's Guy McFly. Thank you all for tuning in. Today we are hanging out with Viviana, the festival royalty, and we are doing a Legion's Realms at War deck tech. If you like what you see, please leave a like and subscribe, and let's get right to it.
Bam! What's up, guys? It's Guy McFly. Thank you for tuning in. Today we are hanging out. We got our brand new Bountiful Harvest Legion's playmat. I am absolutely thrilled that they are here, and they are absolutely fabulous. Very thin, very nice, and the print quality is fantastic. Look at the color. So today we are actually doing a dwarf deck tech. So we're actually going to be talking about the updated dwarf build post Bountiful Harvest. So let's get right into it here. We're going to start with our realm. Obviously we're going to play the traditional dwarf realm. We're going to play Quartz Heart. I'm sure you guys are familiar with his special ability, but he does have the ability to pay 2 every 4 turns. Look at the top 5 cards, rearrange them, and then draw 1. Mount Fingnar the Frozen Peak is a traditional dwarf card out of Ravaged Lands. It bounces 2 cards on the field and manifests as 2 Frostwolves. Frostwolves have the attack of the warrior they're battling, so a 1/1 will destroy it upon battle. Very useful card, and then you have 2 Frostwolves on the field for whatever. Festival, or Viviana the Festival Royalty. Now this is actually the main card in this deck as far as making sure the tempo strategy works really well. At the beginning of the game, you're going to tutor out a Alberdun card. Not only is this just a good defensive card, but in this build, the amount of warriors to the amount of unifieds and fortifieds is very important. So just keep that in mind as I explain this build here. So we're going to go into the fortifieds. So I'm running actually 2 Peninsula of Power. So this is a fortified that allows you to make an attack on your warrior, a direct attack. If you do, you can add a Bounty Realm card back to your hand. Pretty simple. We're also running the Mist of the Fata Morgana. This is kind of a key card out of Bountiful Harvest. It negates all battle and effect damage, and it lets you shuffle 2 cards from other players' eradication zone or discard back into the deck. So not only does this allow you to control the number of warriors in your discard pile, but it also allows you to control your opponent's discard, prevent damage. So it's a very, very useful card. Next, we're going to go into the unified setup, because that is it. I run 5 fortifieds, so it's a bit of an interesting build. People might disagree, but I think this is a pretty good build. So Alberdun's Trader District, running this with Viviana, it's free. It lets you target up to 3 cards in a target player's discard pile and shuffle the targeted cards back in the deck. You then get to draw 1 card. So not only does this allow you, again, to control the number of warriors, but this allows you to control your discard as well. Generally, I don't like to have these fortified sitting in my discard. I'd like them back in my deck where I can get them, or back in my hand if possible. So yeah, that's the best case scenario. Next, we're going to go for Kelter's Explosive Kit. This is a 3-of because it's not a once per turn. You pay 6, search for any Blastforge card. This allows you to kind of set up your board. It allows you to tutor out and consistently, again, make sure that you have more Dwarf Warriors in your deck than Unifieds. But if this card's in your discard pile, you can pay 8, eradicate this card, target 1 Blastforge Dwarf card in your discard pile, and add the card to your hand. Add the targeted Blastforge card to your hand and destroy the target card. So you can destroy a card on your opponent's side of the field and add a Blastforge card from your discard back to hand, which makes this extremely powerful, and it's recoverable with Mist of the Fata Morgana. Next, we do 3 Welcome to Alberdun. Of course, this card is probably the card you're going to grab with Viviana's opening effect. Can't take battle damage, and you get to draw a card. Both players get to draw a card. So this is a defensive card. You can conscript a warrior and feel very content that you're not going to take a whole lot of damage. in my opinion, if you're going to play this card, you're better off not even conscripting for the turn. But in this build, you know, you're going to make choices based on what you have in your hand. So that is the thing to consider. Next, we're going to do 3 Magic Mass 3-Eyed Dark. So this is a very good card, not only to use on your opponent's warriors, but also to use on your very powerful dwarves as well. Because let's say you need to clear a board, you don't have a Kindle Host, and you have a 5 on the field, you make your 5 attack 3 times, he'll blow himself up, and you know what I mean? Then you're not having to pay this cost as well. I run 2 Into the Blastforge. This is a card you want to see, but you don't want 2 of it. If you have 2 of it, you're at a disadvantage. So this is one that I'll discard off for other effects, you know what I mean? I'll let it sit in the discard instead of shuffling it back because I know I can recur that. Next, we'll do 2 Blastforge Melt Cannon. So Blastforge Melt Cannon is your all-intensive board retrieval. So in this case, Blastforge Melt Cannon will allow you to clear the board instantaneously on your turn by eradicating this card. It's recurable by Mists of the Fata Morgana by shuffling it back in, and you're going to find yourself with a Kelter, a Blastforge Melt Cannon. You know what I mean? You'll have a couple of these things in your rad, and that may be the best option with Mist, is to shuffle that back in, again depending on the number of unified and fortifieds in your deck at the time. I run 2 Nisty's War Cleaver. Not only is this a great board clear, it pays 6, negate a unified, pays 6, destroy a target card on the field if it works, but this is one of the few unifieds that can actually negate without targeting, or sorry, it negates a card that's not targeting a card on your side of the field specifically. So if your opponent activates a fortified and it's not targeting, this allows you to destroy it without having to run dismantle and not draw next turn. So in my opinion, this is a powerful card. It is retrievable as a dwarf card, and it's a pay 12, pop 2, which is very costly, but can be very useful for going for game. We're going to do Diary of the Blastforge Survivor. So I run this at a 2 because you can search it out with Kelter's Explosive Kit. It's a pay 4, discard a Blastforge card, target a Blastforge Dwarf Warrior in your discard pile, conscript it to your side of the field. So you can conscript a warrior from your discard pile, and then you conscript an additional Dwarf Warrior from your hand to your side of the field this turn. So it's a very powerful card as far as making sure you got card advantage, and I mean not the discard, but you're able to conscript, you're able to get more warriors on the field, you're going to be able to trigger more. And I mean, in this deck I'm running a lot of Dwarf Warriors, so it's very powerful here. The final 2 dwarf cards I'm running are Into the Collapsed Mine. This is not one that a lot of people run, and it's a really interesting. So if the chosen your opponent chooses 1 random card in your discard pile. If the chosen card's a Dwarf Warrior, deal damage to your Dwarf Warlord equal to the warrior's attack. Conscript the warrior to your side of the field. If the chosen card is a unified card, you can choose to activate the unified card or add it to your hand. If the chosen card is a fortified, destroy all Dwarf Warriors you control. So, unfortunately, yes, if you hit a fortified, you're gonna lose your cards. You can shuffle them back into the deck with Viviana's and Mists, and that allows you to control very much what you're conscripting. You'll have an additional way to get cards from your discard pile and conscript them from their discard pile, which again is a free, you know, you're only paying the cost of the attack of the warrior versus paying 4 and discarding a card. So this is a, you know, it's a 1-for-1 versus a 1-for-2, you know what I mean, minus, you know what I mean. So it's very powerful. Next I run Ancient Relic Sword of Sacrifice. So this is one you guys have all seen. Pay 10, equips to a warrior control. If it's a bounded realm warrior, you don't have to pay. Bestow +10 to the targeted warrior, and then you can sacrifice. You must sacrifice 1 warrior to declare an attack, and then you can sacrifice 2 warriors to double the attack. So with the phrasing of the card, you can double the attack before attacking. So What you're going to do in this deck is you're going to sack off your 2 Frostwolves to double the attack. You're going to be building your board as far as conscripting lots of warriors, and then this card will allow you to go for game. You're able to retrieve it with your Peninsula of Power. You're able to shuffle it back into the deck and draw it later on, and it is a very, very powerful card. I only run it at a 1 because I'm trying to keep this deck at as low number as possible. So next we go into the Dwarf Warriors. So that is all for the lineup. So we are talking 27 cards for Unified Fortifieds. Running Dalgo, the Blastforge Tunnel Dinger. This is just hand advantage. I don't hate Plunder, but I like Wisdom better. Again, here's Gillar, the Blastforge Inspector. Plunder as well, just more hand advantage. You reveal him, you get a card, and you can conscript another warrior. Franz, the Blastforge Geyser Blaster, very powerful card. It allows you to bounce a card on either player's side of the field back to the target, or the target warrior to the owner's hand. So this allows you to target your own warriors to clear up your board to conscript more or to mill more, depending on where you're at in the game and what you're trying to achieve. So in many instances, if I conscript a Franz from the top of my deck and I've got 4 warriors, and I'm fairly certain that I've top decked a whole bunch of warriors just of how I built this, I'm gonna bounce probably my Strala, my Retrieve Warrior back to hand, and that's gonna allow me to retrieve more later on. Next we've got Hilbrand, the Blastforge Blacksmith. Very powerful warrior, 5 attack, does nothing other than that, but you can script him on Into the Blastforge, and you know what I mean, I've very consistently hit another warrior right after. Strala is going to be our Retrieve Warrior, so she's very important to this build as far as getting all of your Dwarf Unifieds back to hand when you need them. You know what I mean? You can retrieve the Blastforge Melt Cannon, the War Cleaver, the Diary of the Blastforge Survivor, which is probably the most, along with Kelter's Explosive Kit. And again, these allow you to Kelter's allows you to make sure that you have fewer Unifieds and Fortifieds in your deck because you can tutor stuff out, you can retrieve stuff back if they've been destroyed, so very useful cards to use. Quartermean, the Blastforge Elder Druid. So he is the generic common Wisdom Warrior, very powerful in this deck because very often I'll conscript him and I'm not sure of what I'm top decking. So I'll choose to Wisdom before Into the Blastforge, which means that I can make sure, not necessarily making sure, but if I look and I've all of a sudden Wisdom 2 Unifieds, I'm like, thank gosh, right? Because I know that I'm saving those Unifieds from being milled, and I'm putting them at the bottom of the deck so that they're not in the way while I'm doing the Into the Blastforge. So it's a very useful strategy. Along with that, I run Strala. Obviously a very powerful warrior. She has wisdom as well, and she summons Kindlehost, or conscripts Kindlehost, or revives Kindlehost, depending on where he is. Now, not everybody has Kindlehost. This is still a great card to run in this build, and you know, if you can't afford a Kindlehost, you know what I mean, it's not required, but it is a very useful card. Next, we're gonna run Quidex, the Blastforge Honor Bringer. So again, just a generic 5 power. This is one you could do 2 of if you couldn't afford the Kindlehost, just getting another dwarf deck or something. In reality, in my mind, for like the 85 Canadian that it's going for, you can pretty well get a Kindlehost in this deck very easily. Finally, we've got the Kindlehost Shockwave and Gust on conscription, or enter play, and then his perish effect is both Shockwave and Gust. So if he attacks a 1-attack warrior, he can Shockwave and Gust, and when he enters play, he Shockwave and Gust, so he can take out 5 things in battle, like when he comes into play in battling. You know what I mean? So he's a very useful card. He's at least 3 cards just if he's sitting on the field. So very useful advantage, a 1 for 3 consistently. So this is the 50 card dwarf build. I've enjoyed building this, and I think that this is probably the most streamlined build as far as it goes. I might suggest to those of you who are considering this build to maybe also look at the Into Blastforge Fire. It allows you to discard, sorry, not Into Blastforge Fire, Born of Blastforge Fire. It allows you to discard 2 Blastforge cards and burn your opponent for 15. And you can't attack that turn, but it's still a very useful way, along with the mask, to make sure you're doing, you're doing 27 damage a turn. You're very easily to take out your opponent in that case, without doing a whole lot of damage to yourself, right? So just something to consider. And I very much appreciate you guys tuning in to the Deck Tech. Thank you for your time, and like and subscribe if you like what you see. And from Ragai McFly, thank you, and have a great day.